Greetings. We do an update today focused on Nikola and their activities relative to the Tesla Semi. We're calling this the Sorry Show from Nikola based on the fact that Nikola has just decided to add an electric vehicle to their offerings. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time on our channel, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. I wanted to note that we typically like to do a trucking show at least once a month or possibly twice a month if there's a lot of information to be had. Our trucking show today focuses on the fact that there's kind of new information that's popped up in terms of what's going on with Nikola, and it seemed appropriate to finally excuse me, get into a conversation about what's going on in the electric truck space, especially in light of the fact that Nikola seems to be making some noise. Want to specifically do shout outs. I want to thank you for subscribing and also wanted to thank our Patreon supporters. I would also like to note that in order to make the channel work, we do have ads, so 10 seconds of watch would be appreciated. And we do a lot of shows live, and we can see every time you say hello and appreciate it, but we've also been asked to wait until the end based on other viewers not up for all the shout outs, so we will say hello at the end of the show. So we've been sort of preparing for a couple of weeks to do our next iteration of our trucking show. And today's show is kind of bouncing off of the fact that one of the most amazing, I want to say, marketing people in the world is the current CEO of Nikola. He's done a terrific job of lining up 800 trucks to be purchased or reserved by the folks of Anheuser-Busch. And then there's a strong interest from other entities around the world. As you all know, Nikola started out with a discussion of having a natural gas / gasoline truck, and it was decided to switch that over from natural gas to hydrogen. And so we were kind of surprised because Tesla introduced their truck, and the CEO of Nikola actually raised several legitimate challenges with the Tesla truck. Principal among them was he claimed the truck would be a complete fraud because the numbers presented by Elon Musk in terms of range, etc., were really contingent upon some specifics that in theory didn't make any sense. And so bottom line is he was asserting that electric trucks really don't work, and he specifically was focused on the fact that electric trucks do not work in a long range setting, but that his hydrogen trucks are trucks that would work in that setting, and therefore he was calling Tesla's effort in electric trucks to be a fraud. Now let's fast forward 2 years and take a look at this. And our show today references Sorry because some new information has come out from Nikola, which is, as of 2 months ago, they introduced the fact that they were in fact going to have an electric truck, number one. Number two, they also introduced the fact that they had to admit that electric trucks have a competitive advantage in shorter range, while he's arguing still that the trucks that are hydrogen driven have advantages in a longer range, with the issue being that the battery weight from the electric trucks doesn't serve one well on the longer range trips. So we were really surprised by this, because how can you go from electric trucks don't work to we're putting one out and electric trucks are okay now, and the fact is that Tesla's trucks are working fine in their prototype phases, so there's no longer the ability of Trevor Noah, the CEO of Nikola, to claim that there's a fraud on the part of Tesla. The only sort of element of the Tesla truck experience that one could say this smells or feels kind of fraudish is the fact that, guess what? The truck has been sort of promised in mid-2019, and now it's been pushed back to 2020. And while we're seeing prototypes on the move, we're actually not seeing, in-hand customer trucks that have been produced as was promised. But I want to say it's a little different promise to freight customers than it is to, I want to say, we'll call it regular customers. The issue that's popping up is the fact that almost all of the freight customers that Tesla has sort of engaged have had opportunities to either drive or ride on the trucks. And so their ability to validate the value proposition of Tesla in the truck space is better, and I think therefore impacts their willingness to not get angry about delayed shipments. So hence, you could call it a fraud, but you're actually getting an opportunity to drive the prototype and see what kind of load it can carry. And both employees and executives, as well as engineers, are getting a chance to test it out to see if it's viable. The second part of the Tesla fraud question mark issue focuses on the fact that in reality, there's a fascinating element here, which is we've been studying the response of Daimler and other competitors to the Tesla truck threat. And it's been fascinating because there's been a buzzing question for a long time of when is Daimler actually going to A, finish a truck, and B, deliver it? And the answer that popped up was that they're starting to do prototypes in the port of Los Angeles. Volvo is starting to do the same thing as well. We do have garbage trucks that are out there. So this is kind of a suggestion that is Tesla viable or still a fraud? And the answer you have to come up with is no. Tesla is in fact viable and it's not a fraud. And it's just a matter of figuring out, battery production location and getting that whole initiative started. So the other interesting point here is that we've kind of figured out what the process is that Daimler-Benz and some of the other manufacturers are using, which is because the batteries are so heavy and expensive, everyone's operating in prototype mode right now until we have solutions battery-wise, both scale batteries and batteries that are delivering weight that makes sense. And so therefore we don't have that currently, and instead of saying we have nothing to offer potential customers, there are these prototypes that are out there that might be, and I would say could be confirmed as being overweight as solutions when it comes to carrying regular freight, but they do exist and they are being tested. And as the batteries become available for the entire industry, we'll see them being implemented successfully. So the other element of what we wanted to cover today is the fact that we're still shocked, amazed that Nikola is around. Right now, they've started producing dune buggies and other sort of outdoor vehicles of this sort to keep something going. We're going to include a photo that Nikola has sort of going to articulate their products, but we're still asking the question, how can a company that's never produced a roadworthy vehicle, eclipse Toyota with its hydrogen efforts in only 1 year in terms of number of customer orders, and be out there building a factory for these vehicles. We're particularly fascinated by the fact that one component of what the folks at Nikola are doing involves electric batteries. And so our thought process is that, number one, it's easy to get batteries for a few prototypes, but with competitors that are huge and that are global, like a Daimler, like Volvo, like Tesla, etc., consuming the world's supply of lithium-ion batteries, it's hard to imagine that these individuals would be able to get any kind of help when it comes to the batteries they need to actually drive these vehicles. But there's plenty of battery if you want to put out a prototype. So we'll kind of see what happens as this moves forward. We just got a note from one of our viewers regarding what's going to happen with Maxwell and the impact on batteries. As we've stated previously, we're really looking forward to the Maxwell impact. Tesla continues to improve density and other aspects of their battery production, and supposedly we're going to hear some huge noise from the impact of the folks over at Maxwell's ideas and solutions being baked into the Tesla process. So we're kind of looking forward to hearing that. We just had a couple of other cleanup items that are going on right now. There are a lot of people, I would say about 10% of the questions asked on our channel over the last year or two have really focused on refresh of the Model X and the Model S. Elon Musk really recently came out and announced that there won't be a refresh of the Model X and S for the foreseeable future, and I think that means 1 or 2 years. There are a couple of components to this. One is obviously their hands are busy with everything else they're doing, particularly ramping the Model 3. The second issue that happens, and I think all of you know this from our earlier channels, is that other than the outside skin, the internal components of the Model S are changing by as much as 10% every 90 days. So all of Tesla's cars are being upgraded, which is one of the reasons why there's a vertical integration process that goes on at Tesla. So I think that buyers of new S's are unhappy because they aren't able to see a new skin on the outside. Same for the Model X. But I think if you check the specs in terms of range and other elements of the vehicle, there are changes going on, and there are improvements going on. They're just incremental, and they aren't the dramatic ones that you typically expect to see from any automaker. I'm, and roaming in this realm still there's a fascinating question mark that comes up regarding the new I-Pace as well as the e-tron, and that is that both vehicles are rolling in at about $90,000. Their range is said to be in the range of 200 miles to 225 miles. And what's fascinating is that the similar Tesla Model X rolling on is rolling at between 3 and 350 miles. So this is kind of amazing because both vehicles by Tesla have been out for a while, and they're operating on an 18650 battery, albeit they have higher energy density than competing products. But we're having competitors rolling out products years after Tesla has, and you still don't have a range match. And allegedly, both I-Pace and e-tron are able to do supercharging or rapid charging, but we've heard or seen, challenges being experienced by owners when it comes to these vehicles. So hats off to Tesla by the fact that it really shows their advantages, and even years after products are out, competitors are still having challenges. The other thing that I wanted to highlight again here, and that we've covered in previous shows, is the fact that it was noted that Tesla actually the process being used by the big competitors is to put some vehicles out there for early adopters at the higher price points, knowing that the large number of customers will not be able to buy. But it does show that there is some response that's going on by big manufacturers like Daimler, etc. Interesting. Donovan just made a comment regarding less weight when it comes to coolant. I still think that the battle right now is between the pouches of LG and the cylindrical battery cells from Tesla, and I'm very surprised to see that LG and others haven't been producing 18650 with a similar cooling process to Tesla, because it seems that having the batteries in smaller components like that seem to be a better way to control heat and cold than the pouch. But you can't argue with the pouch because it's cheaper, and as we see real customers using these products, we'll be able to determine the viability of these solutions. But thanks for the comment, Donovan. And I think it's interesting because it's a great idea to remove coolant fluid to save weight. But the challenge with that is that if you save weight by removing the coolant fluid, you potentially have the problem of either overheating or the batteries getting too cold to operate. And so you introduce other issues when you try to remove technological solutions that have been carefully researched like that. But it sounds good, kind of makes sense, but I'd be hard pressed to see anyone try to move on to that kind of solution. So we're sort of nearing the time frame end of our shows that we typically do. I did want to sort of preview you guys on our next show plan, which is we actually had some conversation with a Chinese reporter from NPR, and the operating question for our next show is, why would China choose to deliver Tesla to Shanghai in the way they have, given that the success of Tesla in that space potentially jeopardize the forward health of so many Chinese startups? And the answer, well, we have an interesting look in that show, and I look forward to covering what's going on further in the Shanghai factory in our next show. At any rate, a reminder, don't forget your 25 leg lifts a day with a 5-pound weight on each leg. Don't go to bed within 2 hours of eating, preferably 4 hours. Give the food time to digest. We're looking forward to the newly no longer a fraud Tesla Semi being able to operate, and given that Nikola has now chosen to enter the space with their own electric vehicle, they're hunting for the same statistics that Tesla has been able to generate, which we haven't seen yet, but you have to give the folks at Nikola credit for being able to deliver an electric prototype in 1 year when it's taken other manufacturers much longer to do so. At any rate, we definitely appreciate all of you taking time to say hello and join us once again. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, German, au revoir, French, lehitraot, Hebrew, Hoda Hafez, Farsi, Ni hao ma, Chinese, Zdravstvuyte, Russian. Have a great day and bye for now, and look forward to our next opportunity to connect. And Donovan, thanks for the great photos that you've been sending over to give us a look at Model 3s in action in Sweden. We'll go ahead and post those at Teslafaninsight on our Facebook page. Have a great day and bye for now.